let's talk about the Computer Science 120L portfolio assignment. You'll find this assignment on the Canvas page for 120L, and the instructions for the assignment are off of this GitHub link right here. At the bottom of the assignment is a rubric. This is what we're going to use to evaluate your assignment. So it's really important that you're familiar with all the dimensions that we're going to use to grade your assignment. To get started, click on this link to open up the instructions. The instructions are on GitHub. It's a very clear process. It's very different from our other labs because in this assignment, you're making your own web page using a service called GitHub Pages. You do not need to know how to write stuff in HTML. You don't need to know anything about web design. We're going to be using a technology called Markdown. Markdown is just plain text. All you need is your text editor. Everything you need is already on your computer. The first step is to go and visit or to think back to which labs you like the best. And it might be hard to remember all the different things that you did in those labs, so we provided links to all the labs this past semester. Once you've selected 3 of the labs that you really enjoy, open up a Google Doc and write down your favorite parts about each lab. This is a really important step because it'll simplify getting this assignment done if you've already written this out in a separate document. I like Google Docs, but if you want to use Microsoft Word or something else, that's great too. But just write down what you need to have so that you're ready to go. So once you've done that reflection, you need to make a homepage for yourself. And like I said, this is using a service from GitHub called GitHub Pages. And I'm going to walk you through how to do that. So the next step is to go to github.com. I've already got this page loaded up. And in the right-hand side, upper right-hand side of the page, there'll be this plus sign. What we want to do is we want to create a new repository. On this form, you need to put the name of the repository. It's really important that you name the repository your GitHub username .github.io. If you can't remember what your GitHub username is, just look over here. It's just to the left. So in this case, my GitHub username is mshafei. So the repository name is mshafei.github.io. It must be public, so please make sure public is checked. If you make it private, it won't work. And then finally, you click Create Repository. Once this repository is created, let's get this onto our computer. So you can copy this link, come over to your terminal, navigate to where you've kept your homework organized the whole semester, and you're going to clone this repository. Now, it's going to warn you that it's an empty repository. That's okay. We're going to be putting stuff into that directory. So if you look in this directory, you can see I've got that folder right there. And it is indeed empty. So the next step in this is to create our own web page. Use Visual Studio Code to edit a file and name the file index.md. Make sure you call it index.md. Once this opens up, the next is pretty easy. You just, right at the top, put down your name, introduce yourself, let's see, I'm going to graduate in 2028, I hope. And then let's do our favorite labs from 120. Now this is the part where I said if we have this already done in Google Docs, it makes things a lot easier. You come over here to Google Docs. I'm going to copy this and paste it. And then I'm going to come over here and save this. Great, it's saved. Now, if I come back to the terminal, remember this is a Git repository. And remember, I am inside of the Git repository I just cloned. If I type git status, it's going to tell me that this file is untracked. That's index.md. See, it's in red. It's not tracked. So I'm going to add it. Check again. Okay, it has changes to be committed. That means I've made changes. It's being tracked, but it hasn't been committed, so I need to commit the changes. let's put a comment. Great. Okay, so now it's telling me that I've made a commit, but I haven't pushed this to GitHub. So let's push. And now I'm done. Now, perhaps you don't have your username and your personal access token saved in your terminal. That's okay. You've done this for the past semester, how to type in all that stuff and get it to work. Just do what you've done before. I have my username and password saved, so that's why I'm not typing it in. But you could do the same thing too, but just do the same thing you've done in the past labs to commit and push. If I come back over to my web browser and I reload this page, I should see index.md, should have the comment that I made, and it should say when it was committed. Because this is not a README file, it won't show you the content. So if you want to see it, you got to click on it. And that's a pretty good first draft. It's not perfect, but it's pretty good. Now, part of this assignment is not only to get this done, but to make sure it shows up in a public place that we can all view it. So to check that, I'm going to type in the name of the repository. In my case, it's mshafei.github.io into the address bar of my web browser, and that's going to open up that web page. And as you can see, the same contents from that page shows up right here. And that's the whole purpose of the assignment, is for you to create a public web page that anyone who knows your URL, your link, will be able to come and look at that page. Now, I'm not too happy with the formatting, so I'm going to make a couple more changes. So I'll come back to VS Code, and I'm going to use some Markdown formatting. Markdown is just a way to format text so that if you send it through a program, it will convert it to HTML. You don't have to have any special programs, because all the hard work happens on GitHub's website. It takes care of it for you. So I'm going to put bullet marks in front of everything. And I'm going to save this. And then I'm going to come over here. Let's see. Git status. Okay, I made some changes. Oh, no, I didn't make any changes. I forgot to save. Shoot. File. Save. Okay, I'm going to commit it. Place a comment. I'm going to push it. Great. If I come back to my github.com page where the repository is, and I refresh that page, I should see the changes. And I do. If I go to the other page, which is the website, the public website that has the link mshafei.github.io, and I refresh this page, sometimes you will not see changes here because this goes through a publication process. It might take up to 2 to 3 minutes for it to show up. So don't panic. Right now, the clock on my computer says 9:28, so probably by 9:30, it'll work. Sometimes faster, sometimes a little slower, but don't panic because if you see it over here and it looks good, then it probably looks just fine. Now, I don't like how this doesn't have a space there, so I'm going to come back and change that too. The way I can do that is by highlighting this text and indenting it a little bit and highlighting this text, indenting it, highlighting this text and indenting it. And I think I need to put a blank line there, a blank line here, and a blank line right here. I'll save this. I'm going to commit. Oh, forgot to add. Then I'll commit. Oh, I forgot to save again. Boy, make that mistake all the time. Let's try that again. Great. And I'll push that. I'll refresh this page. Ah, that looks a lot nicer. Now let's go check to see if this link has updated. So I'll refresh this. There it is. Now, notice that this is the old version that I had a second ago. And now it looks different. Now it's got more spacing. So what I recommend doing is like waiting a few more minutes, coming back, refreshing this page, and then probably you'll see those changes. That's all there is to it. Now you might ask, like, how do I submit this assignment? You don't have anything to submit because we're going to look for this special link for every single student. If we can find your webpage at that link, then it's submitted. If we can't see it there, then it's not submitted. So that's an important step for you to do, is to verify that it works. Again, simple way of verifying is to remember, if you have a web browser open, you type in your GitHub username, .github.io. If something shows up, then you've submitted it. If nothing shows up, if it gives you a 404 error, then it's not there. To give you an example of what a 404 error would look like, let me change my GitHub username to something that doesn't exist. And that's an error. If you see this, that's a problem. So that means it's not visible to us. We can't grade it. If we can't grade it, you get a 0. Now, to make sure that you got all the points possible, go through this rubric. Make sure that you've done all the work here. And if that's the case, then you're going to get full credit. Just read through the rubric, double check your work, and everything's going to be great. In the instructions, if things don't work out the first time, there is a section for common problems. Read through the common problems and double check to make sure that none of the common problems occurred. Many times people make a mistake. They don't name the file correctly. They misspell index.md. And sometimes GitHub just has a snafu, and you just have to wait those 2 minutes for it to refresh. But if you still have problems, contact your instructor and see if your instructor can help you. And that's all there is to it to make a portfolio for Canvas for CPSC 120L.